Welcome back to LTR Gaming. And I am Troy. How everybody doing? Hope you guys been enjoying my streams. Last night had the opportunity to get into some Kenna Bridge of Spirits on the PS5. Had a blast doing that, by the way. Shout out to everybody that came through and showed love for that particular stream. It was great. I had a great time doing it. Again, overall, I want to say thank you. Got a lot of news to get into. You know, if it isn't Microsoft buying everything and being the behemoth in the gaming industry that they are, then it's Sony. And you know, they recently purchased Bungie, a company that was once owned by Microsoft. And the company that's behind Halo, one of the greatest shooters of all time. I have to admit that, even though I'm not one of those Halo fanatics and people that just, you know, go crazy whenever a Halo game come out and a multiplayer come out. I told you guys before, I'm not really a multiplayer type person anyway to begin with, but that just is what it is. But now they're under the umbrella of Sony. And I've been saying for some time now, Sony has to do something. Because with that recent purchase that Microsoft recently did with the $6.8 billion acquisition of Activision, excuse me. You hear folks out here saying Sony doesn't have to do anything.
These nuts.
Sony doesn't have to do anything.
Got him. Got him.
I mean, are you kidding me? This is a business. At the end of the day, these companies are in business to make money for their brand and their business to be profitable and lucrative. At the end of the day, whether you are a fanboy for either side, that's just what it is. Can't help that. They're going to do what's in the best interest of their brand, in their board members and their constituents. But I personally don't feel that this is enough. I don't think this was the actual studio that Sony should have gone after. To be quite honest, I feel they should have gone after Blizzard. Activision Blizzard. And I get it, Microsoft has a hell of a lot more money. Hell, Microsoft in all reality can buy Sony if they really want to. Hell, they can buy Nintendo also and really put a strain in the monopoly on the market. But what fun would that be for the gaming industry? But again, Bungie is a great studio that makes a great first-person shooter multiplayer games. Destiny has broken so many records. You know, we're on Destiny 2 now. I don't know when they're going to launch Destiny 3. I'm not even sure how long they're going to continue to support this particular franchise. I believe it's 10 years that Bungie said they're going to put behind continuously supporting this particular cycle, this particular game. And after a while, it's going to run its course. It's not on the par of a Call of Duty, and we know now Microsoft owns Call of Duty, but it's a reputable franchise, Destiny that is, and the fact that it will be exclusive for the particular foreseen future, I believe at some point in time, will Sony announces that, because they have not announced that Destiny will be exclusive to the Sony brand. I think at some point it will, but at the particular moment, it's a multi-plat game. again, I don't think it was worth the juice was worth the squeeze on this. It's one studio at the end of the day. And I get it, while it's a studio that everyone's fond of at that particular moment. In Halo and Destiny is their big claim to fame. That's about it. I don't think many people can really, reality name other games that Bungie has created or participated in created in their particular wheelhouse to where you can out here really be like, well, this acquisition is going to change the tide and change the wave in the direction of the momentum that Microsoft has been going in with the particular game and industry and the acquisition of ZeniMax, Bethesda, and now Activision Blizzard. While this is a good pickup, it's one pickup. And what game are you looking for at the particular moment that's coming from Bungie? You know what I mean? Again, I've said this in past videos and past podcasts that in all reality, Microsoft, they're changing the marketplace in their acquisitions with the studios that they're buying, because they're going to have a diverse lineup of catalog of games that you can choose from to play and purchase at any time. And while that's great, but Sony has to lean in again on its strong suits, I believe. And the strong suit that Sony has always had to lean on is mature single-player games with great stories and great narratives. Not to say that they don't make multiplayer games on their particular platform that are good, but I'm gonna be honest. I play multiplayer games that are for several consoles on the Xbox because it's the most powerful one. To be honest, if you're looking for fidelity, if you're looking for the teraflops, at the end of the day, whether it was last generation and even this generation, Sony can't compete when it comes to the hardware. It's always been the software and the type of software in the franchises that drew me and other gamers to the Sony brand. So, the purchase of Bungie is great. You paid $3.6 billion for it. But what does it really get you? I mean, yeah, you made headline news, but it's not like you purchased Take-Two Interactive. It's not like you bought, the rights to Grand Theft Auto. It's not like you bought World of Warcraft, which is now owned by Microsoft, which was under Activision Blizzard. It's not any of those things. So in all reality, what did you really pay for? You really paid for a second. I'm not going to say a second-hand company because that'd be disrespectful. But in all reality, you paid for a company that was owned at one point in time by your competitor. But in all reality, again, what did you get? I'm just saying, other than Destiny, bruh, what did you get? I get it. Bungie didn't want to be tied down to Microsoft, so they wanted to do their own thing, and they did. But Destiny 2's sequel released back in 2017. Which is their biggest asset right now. And it has its valleys and has its peaks, to be quite honest. I've gotten off of it. I've put too many hours into Destiny, especially Destiny 1. I went through the ups and downs and the headaches and there not being enough content and being very patient with Bungie. And just saying, you know what?
No, fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch. Fuck that bitch.
I gotta get off this. I feel like I was running on a hamster wheel. But it is their biggest IP right now. And they have what's crazy is that even though it's their biggest IP, they signed a 10-year publishing agreement with Activision Blizzard. And listen, every year it's estimated that Destiny makes Bungie $200 million as revenue, with the DLC that obviously you got to pay for, with all of the in-game, features that you have to buy, to cosmetic trinkets and weaponries and roll of the dice. And I remember playing Destiny 1 and everybody was getting the Gallahorn, but I couldn't get the Gallahorn for whatever reason. I did everything possible. I did raids and all of that and linked up with different groups, and then now they made it easy for you to buy weapons and buy things that you probably didn't want to have to grind out in game to get. Again, I'm not trying to shit on Destiny at all, but what I'm saying, for what Sony paid for it, what are you really getting with it in all reality? It's a shared world multiplayer PvE shooter that you're going to support for the next 10 years. But to me, it just doesn't feel like Destiny fits on the Sony marketplace. You know what I mean? When I bought it initially, I bought it on the Xbox. I just feel like they're closely associated with Microsoft, and at the time of its release initially in Destiny 1, and I didn't see the purpose or the reason. Again, I'm still looking for the reasoning and the logic and why Sony would buy this. Was it a knee-jerk reaction to the purchase of
Sorry, could you say that again?
Blizzard, Activision Blizzard? What is a reaction like that? I hope not. No. I mean, $3.6 million, $3.6 billion for a studio that their biggest game right now is a multiplayer game that's on multiple platforms, and it's a shooter, and it's not a game that comes out annually every year. While $200 million is a lot of money to me, right? It's definitely a lot of money to me. To these game development companies, $200 million is nothing. They wipe their ass with that a year. If that's your annual income a year for one franchise, and I'm just calling it what it is. I'm not pocket watching, but they report their numbers and they report things. And $200 million for a game that's been out for at least 5 years now, I don't see what Sony's going to go with that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think anybody's having a real constructive conversation about it. Everyone's yay, hooray, where's the parade? Parade for what? What are you parading? But listen, it gives Bungie, the studio, and the creators of Destiny, capital in their pocket now to expand on Destiny. But other than a shooter, what else could this studio really make? What else are they really known for making? They're just known for making shooters, but I think we're in a market now, we're getting to the point where the shooting market is oversaturated. I think there's so many games, there's so many free-to-play games, free-to-play shooters too, that you're competing with now with online services, that unless Sony knows something or they have something in the back room that they're not revealing to the public in the sense of what Bungie's going to be doing going forward with maybe new IPs that Sony's going to be brewing, maybe that's the case, but I can't bet on that. It's not outbeating Halo. It's not outbeating Call of Duty. So what's the approach? I would have went for, with that kind of money that they spent for this one studio, you could have bought several studios that made games or have the potential to make games that lend more to your brand and make sense for your brand. More studios that make single player narrative driven games that gamers really want. And Microsoft is doing that because now they have the studios to do it, but they're going to be churning out games, I say, in the next 5 years far quickly than they ever have, than Sony has. And we're just stuck waiting for these Sony IPs to come out and waiting. And I'm waiting too, don't get me wrong. Again, no fanboyism here. But for this kind of money, you think in all reality Microsoft really cares about this acquisition of Bungie? They could have bought Bungie. What Microsoft did was buy a studio that has a catalog of games. And that's what I'm really getting at, and I want people to really understand what I'm really ultimately leaning towards is the catalog of games that Sony has, that Microsoft has, and that one purchase of Activision Blizzard. That one purchase offered you remakes, right, of games that we haven't played in years. That lends to the longevity of the studio, the longevity of franchises that, or even the revitalization of franchises that we haven't heard of in years. That's what Microsoft did when they spent their bread. But when Sony just buys Bungie, you just bought a studio that makes one game currently right now. We don't know what other potential Bungie may have in their wheelhouse. We don't know. Maybe they can make story narrative driven games with first person shooter elements to it. Maybe. It hasn't been seen yet, but this is a gamble. This is a gamble. What I would have preferred, or what I would have recommended Sony to do, if you're going to spend this kind of money, go after Ubisoft. Ubisoft would have been to me, a one-to-one in the sense of if you're comparing Microsoft purchase of ZeniMax, Bethesda, Ubisoft, hand in hand. You can say pretty much they're kind of hand in hand, equal in the sense of the catalogs of games that come along with them in that particular studio. That would have been a more interesting and serious marketplace purchase if I was Sony to do, instead of going after Bungie. I wouldn't have gone after Bungie. I would have worked with them, still allow them to be a studio that we assisted from time to time and done independent contractor work with them, paid them a couple of $1 million like you have been doing for years now to get the DLC on your console first, or have some exclusivity for a year for maybe a weapon or some DLC, and then it'll come to the other platforms. That's what you've been doing, Sony. That made more sense. You should have kept that avenue of thinking open instead of just going out putting that cash down on them, because I don't know if you're going to be able to reap the benefits and the residual that you spent for them, because they only make currently right now one game, and that's Destiny. And like they've revealed in the stats, it only makes $200 million revenue annually every year. And that's going to decline as more shooters enter the marketplace. As Microsoft starts rolling out their games, and those studios that they bought with those IPs that we want to play, once they start to become exclusive and they start to go to Game Pass and things start to tighten up, you don't think those numbers of players that are playing on the Destiny brand, the Destiny game, is going to start to decline, and they're going to start to defect over to the Microsoft brand, I think you could have diversified your lineup to a degree which no one would have expected, even more if you would have went after Ubisoft. That would have been a more common sense marketplace purchase that would have paid you more dividends in the back end, just due to the amount of success that they have in their game wheelhouse that could have benefited Sony if it would have been exclusive on the Sony brand. But that's just my personal opinion. But they're buying these studios. They bought Bungie as it is. We still haven't got The Last of Us 2 multiplayer. That game's been out like 2-3 years now. We haven't heard anything about it. We still haven't got any Last of Us 2 DLC. Right? Days Gone, they said that they're not going to be making a sequel to that, even though it was a game that I enjoyed. It was a game that sold well, and that game was actually wouldn't mind seeing a part 2 of, just the way that it ended. You got God of War coming out, right? You got Horizon about to come out this month. So, again, I'm just looking at this down the line in 5 years from now, where, hey, some of those third-party games that you may still have licensing deals with that will still be on the platform, even though another company may own them, 5 years from now, that might not be the case. So those third-party games that Sony may have been relying on to be the filler until your first-party games come out might not necessarily be there for you. And that's going to put strain and pressure on the studios that you do have to make your first-party games come out. And then we're going to be, the horse is going to be chasing its tail. Then you're going to have all these crunch, accusations and investigations and news reports coming out. Workers working $1 million hours a week, overworked, fingers bleeding. To me, I just want to see parity to some degree in the gaming industry, but I want to see common sense moves made. And it just seems like, I don't know if Sony's trying to kill off the brand, if they're trying to get out of the gaming industry, if they're trying to undermine themselves, or if they're doing this on purpose to the point where they're like, look, we rather just move on and let the chips fall where they may, do the bare minimum, and ultimately have Microsoft buy us out, and then we all just stream games through the Microsoft platforms and avenues, and Microsoft just be this behemoth of gaming where if you're going to play video games, that's the only place you're going to be able to get the source of video games coming from, because it doesn't seem like Sony's willing to compete anymore. And we used to say that about Microsoft for years. Microsoft isn't competing. They don't have any software. They don't have any games. Sony has all the games. Well, now the roles are reversed now. The roles are reversed. And while we're behind in the sense of this generation of gaming with the new Xbox and new PS5, even though they're not so much new, we're in year 2, you still can't just go into the store and readily purchase them and get them. And we're still dealing with this pandemic. That's an issue. The next cycle of gaming, the next generation of consoles, the hardware is irrelevant at this point in time. It's going to be a software war. And I'm interested to see where that's going to go. It's going to be very interesting because you're going to have to put up or shut up. And I'm a bit concerned if Sony's going to be able to do that. I mean, bruh, what are we doing? What the dog doing?
What the dog doing?
I mean, tell me.
What the dog doing?
What the dog doing? Because the way this industry is going, it seems like, if you haven't noticed the pattern, it seems like Sony blows their load, and I don't mean this to be explicit or anything like that. But it seems like Sony always blows their load within the first 6 months of the new year every year. The last gaming cycle and generation. It seems like they just blow their load. Whatever they got, whatever they delayed, holiday season, the prior year, it's coming out, first quarter, new year, February or March. They just put it all out. And the next thing you know, holiday season, you get one game, one first party game from them, but you get a mass amount of AAA games. And I'm just saying, Microsoft is buying these studios up. I'm sure they're not done purchasing another big studio purchase for them. I'm sure it's coming down the line. We're going to be like, yo, how did Microsoft get that? Y'all buying Bungie, it doesn't affect the market and it doesn't benefit Sony. I don't see how it does. This particular studio, for the amount that they pay for it, they, again, currently right now, they're making one game. They have not advertised any new IPs. And they make a niche genre type games. First person shooters. It's not like they all over the place. You know what I mean? They make, RPGs, first person shooters, story driven games, sports games, strategy games. That's not who they are. So you bought the studio and you only got one game out of it so far that we know of that can actually move and make some money for you. Yeah, RT Gaming, man. You said, what'd you say? Yep, I see the IP war between Sony and Xbox. No Nintendo just sitting in the city chilling. Yeah, Nintendo doesn't even have to do anything. Nintendo is not even in the arms race, in the war when it comes to this particular situation. Nintendo's like, yo, we're over here doing our thing. We're going to make our games and people are going to buy them. We're not going 4K. We're not going 4K. We're not doing, 120 frames per second. No, we're still using hardware from a generation ago, and it sufficed for us. And we put Mario on it. We put a couple of names that people are familiar with on it, and y'all just gonna continue to buy it. And listen, I say it all the time. People need to hold Nintendo to the fire just as much as you want to hold Microsoft and Sony, as they should, because they're a gaming company too. But they have a following that is like no other. Again, Nintendo, you see, the thing about Nintendo that makes Nintendo unique is that, for the most part, they've been around longer than Microsoft and Sony in the gaming industry. You see what I'm saying? So they have that nostalgia and that legendary history and pedigree to lean on. So that's why they're always going to be able to be over here in the corner in the cut, because somebody my age remember their first gaming experience with that particular brand, and they still make games that give you that nostalgia feeling, and they haven't gone too far off with the graphics and the content, because it's still pretty much similar to what you're used to. Now, they're trying to make it a little edgy, but in all reality, Nintendo's only going to push the envelope so far. They're only going to push the envelope so far. I remember back in the day when I had my Super NES and I had my Sega Genesis as well. I had Street Fighter 2 and I had Street Fighter 2 on both consoles. Well, it was Mortal Kombat. Excuse me. It was Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis and the Mortal Kombat for the Nintendo. The Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis, when you would punch somebody or hit somebody, blood would come out. Both on the NES, no blood would come out. It'll be like something that wasn't equivalent to blood. It would not resemble that. And it just goes to show that they're going to make what they make, and they're going to continue to do that. And you're not really going to be able to change the tide in the way that Nintendo moves. But at this point in time, man, I mean, Sony has to understand their place, understand who they are, understand that you have to buy the studios that have a catalog of games that either 1, gamers want to play have revitalized. They want to be remade or remastered. Or 2, studios that have new, fresh ideas that align with the product that you sell that make you successful. And to me, in my observation, in my experience, in how I play games, and this is just my personal experience on how I play games and how I experience games, is that single player, story-driven games is the place where you want to play at on the PlayStation brand. Period. Not to say that Microsoft doesn't offer you something of similar quality, but they haven't been known for that. And that could change. But right now, as we know, that has been Sony's claim to fame. That's what kept them afloat. That's why God of War sells what it does. That's why Horizon sells what it does. That's why Uncharted sells what it does. Those are single player narrative driven games. And for the life of me, I don't know why you would go away from that if that's been your bread and butter for years and that has made you so successful. But that's my spiel on this Sony purchase of Bungie. And again, I don't know if it's going to be a success. I don't know if it's going to be something that is going to be fruitful for them in the end. But at the end of the day, we'll see. We'll pay close attention to what Sony does going forward. Don't expect Bungie to put out anything new, I'm assuming, anytime soon that's new and refreshing on the PlayStation platform. You can expect years for them to produce anything new. They might not even produce anything new other than the new updates and the new seasons for Destiny 3 whenever that launches, and people are not really waiting for that. No one's waiting for Destiny 3 to come out. You have a very small niche in the marketplace for that. And not to say that it's not lucrative to make you some money, but it's not going to move the needle in the way that you think is going to move the needle. You got to stick to your strong suits. And for whatever reason, Sony just doesn't want to do that. Guys, I'm Troy. This is LTR Gaming. Subscribe to me on YouTube at LTR Gaming. Also, follow me here on Twitch so you can know when I'm streaming whenever you want. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.